put this into the calendar quite last minute. So thank you again for making the time to be here. This session today is just to clarify any questions that you might have, but to just give you a little bit of an oversight on how things went, to get a little feedback from you as well on in terms of participating at the PGR event and being able to interact with some of the students. So I'll just give a little recap and then I'll hand it over. It's more of a discussion than me really being able to lead with any sort of revolutionary material. So we had the event a couple weeks ago. We have now officially matched students to companies. Some companies will get more than one student, and that was done through an expression of interest from that company, but also how we looked at the capacity in which you might be able to offer experiences. And I'll give you a little bit more information about that in a minute. So if you're a very small company, we'll try not to burden you with two students. The event, feedback from the event, from the student side, let's start with what happened. The students really enjoyed meeting you guys, and credit to you, they said it was a good experience for them to, one, be able to speak about their research expertise to different audiences, and you were really responsive and helpful in that way. And two, it was like an informal job interview, because quite a few of them were quite nervous until you arrived, and you helped make that process a lot easier. So there is something to be said in the sector for doing things like this, in terms of just understanding business needs, and having that conversation was really helpful for them. So on behalf of the institutions involved, I really want to thank you for making the time to do that and to be on this program. Was there any comments from you guys about how the event went, or if we have to do it again from a business viewpoint, what could we do a bit differently? Feel free to unmute and go for it.
I've got something.
Yeah.
I think the problem with the event, there were so many problems. It was too good. It was impossible to get round and have, you know, a solid 5 minutes with everyone. And then, you know, the problem is the food was in the middle. Then we started talking amongst ourselves. And I really wanted to give an equal amount of time to each individual. So one of the things I was thinking, it's now starting to sound like criticism, but one thing I think might have helped and it depends on people's confidence levels, is even myself having to repeat my pitch multiple times. It was hard. I wonder if there's a slightly more efficient way of doing that, maybe where it could be, you know, we've got the stage, someone has 5 minutes, someone else has 5 minutes, you know, something like that. But maybe that wouldn't work for everyone. But if that was an option, I think then maybe that would work better, potentially.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I felt like I was running around I was having great conversations with people near the door, and then the people that were sort of on the other side of the room and going round, I was like doing speed dating. I was just rushing through. So I don't necessarily feel that I engaged as well as I could have done with them. And I totally agree with Chandeep. I know it's a stretch for people to stand up in front of somebody and talk about themselves, but actually that's what they're going to have to do when they go for an interview and get a job anyway. So it is an additional level to that learning curve that they're going to need to go out into the real world. And I believe, yeah, it would have made my time a lot more effective and less knackering, because it was quite tiring towards the end, going over the same thing over and over. And I don't think as well it gave me an opportunity to really value some of the people and their time and their skills and my own.
That's really helpful feedback, and I agree. As this was a pilot, what we can do going forward is, it was difficult to know which businesses were going to buy in to come to the event. So now that we have this pilot and we have these sort of testimonials, we'd be able to maybe book that much earlier in advance, and maybe do a brochure on who would be coming from the business for that particular day, and give the students, so there was a little bit of a prime, so they knew what to expect. They have been asking, and they always were asking us who would be the businesses attending. But the issue we had from day one, because they wanted to go and research you guys and learn a little bit more, the issue we had was the uptake, because it was very foreign to tell a business, come, we're going to pay for an intern. We didn't want it to seem too forceful at the time. But now that we have you guys on board and we're able to use you as examples of people who've gone through this experience, it might be better for the next time if we are funded to do so.
Actually, I'll be absolutely honest. I understand where you're coming from, Chandeep. I think this is a problem speed dating hasn't fixed, because we have speed dating, right? And that was clearly the model that you'd picked. But I understand what you mean about the efficiency and the repetition, and I think both Barbara and Chandeep, there's a really good argument for eliminating that. But I think that listening to what you just said, Melissa, I think what the businesses should do is actually do a video pitch. Right? Because then the students can go through that and say, well, I want to talk to these guys, and vice versa. Even if the students did a brief video pitch, in a sense, that sorts that the efficiency thing out, because then you end up talking to the people you want to talk to, right? But you'd have to make it sort of reciprocal so that businesses could pick or the students could pick. I think then you end up with what Chandeep is talking about, a far more efficient, and Barbara, a far more efficient thing. Because I think that was the problem. And I agree with Barbara. By the end of 4 hours, you're going hoarse, and it's kind of like you're thinking, God, you can't be interested in this. This is the umpteenth.
Seriously, someone take me home. Really, I've tried.
So
that's really good feedback.
Because if the business does a video, it's committed in a sense. It's it's committed. It's likely to turn up. And then if something happens or it doesn't turn up, well, maybe they can rescue it from there. Something happens. Anyway, sorry, David, I talked over you.
No, that's fantastic. I've got Sarah, and then I'll bring in David.
I just want to share what I saw of experience with Innovate UK when they were presenting the countries of the year at the Innovate UK we're going to focus on. So every country had to present themselves in like three minutes, and then they'll put the slide up on the screen, so everyone could see which countries, and then they know, there's an anchor. So that could be done, and it can be very simple as well if you put a slide up, because you have your presentation. So it depends on the facilities as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. David.
Yeah, Melissa, what surprised me about this event, and it was very good, was how senior these people were, because they were, some of them in their 40s, some of them had already had up to 20 years work experience. So I didn't quite understand why this particular target group was looking for an internship. It was they've got a sophisticated view about where the research interests are, and I wasn't sure whether their needs are going to be met by spending 6 days with a small business. I kind of thought there would be more inexperienced people who needed work experience, not really these people.
No. And I'll pick that up for you, because they've had, I think what drives a more mature student with work experience in the sector to come back and do a PhD is this desire to kind of recreate their portfolio. And for them, using the PhD with all the experience they have, being able to plunge into something very new and niche requires that level of creativity to reintroduce themselves into the sector with this new qualification. And that is where the deficit is. So I know from personal experience, I've had colleagues who've taken their PhD off their CV in order to be employed, because you sort of come up against the grind where you're overqualified now, but how are you demonstrating creativity and the ability, the aptitude to use this extra qualification in the sector? So for them, it's a bit of a test bed to kind of jump off and say, okay, how do I re-emerge? So that's why they've got the experience, but using the PhD skill is new. Hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
No worries. I've got John.
Yeah, hi. I thought the event was great. It's brilliant. I cycled there, so I was knackered when I started, and then and then I was tired within 10 minutes of listening and talking. But I thought it was brilliant. I love it when organisations try something different as well. So that just credit to your whole team for doing that. From a business point of view, things have been quite last minute. I work last minute, so that's fine. But you know, the email about my partnering with my person, I don't know if anyone else's came today at 10 past midnight. So that was the first I knew of any partnership. That's 3 working hours before this meeting. That's quite last minute. So I'd say I'd love things a little bit earlier, but I understand stuff happens, and maybe I missed an email where it was all done. But also explaining of the event and how the actual internship would work. And I understand this is a pilot, but a little bit more concrete information on perhaps it could look like this, or it could be 2 days in person, 3 days, you know, just what I'm a small business owner. I've run a business for 16 years. I've never had worked with a PhD student. I don't know what their expectations are. I don't know what they're like. I don't know whether what their demands would be. I work with musicians every day, so they come with massive long riders and they want pink M&Ms and stuff like that. But I don't know what a PhD student actually wants when they're with my small business, to know by the end of it whether it would be a success for them or not. So just, a few more bits of information, and potentially a little bit earlier as well.
No worries. Thank you, John. And I'm going to share all of that with you today. So that will be covered. Excellent. No worries. And we'll take note on letting you know a little bit earlier. Barbara.
Actually, very similar to what John just said. Actually, I seem to be getting in behind everybody else. This is what I agree with. But yeah, I agree. I went to the event and I didn't really know what I was meant to be doing there. I kind of got the gist of it by about person 8, but it was quite difficult to kind of work out what it is. And I'm a micro business. I work from a room. I don't even own a home. I don't have an office. I don't have anything. And I've got 2 interns. So that's going to be fun. Not quite sure how that's going to work, but I'm up for the challenge. And I think it's also a really good process for me as a business to understand how to engage with researchers and professionals and those kinds of things. But the other thing is my specialism is writing CVs and getting people into work. And I did have some really big concerns about your PhD CVs and their resumes. There were some real problems with some of them that were actually going to create problems for them finding work in the future, not actually engaging. So that might be something we could talk to as an aside, because I was actually by the end going around giving your students CV advice.
That is great to know, Barbara, because if we have to run this again, the students do a training session. And if from the business viewpoint, if you guys were interested in being part of that training session to come in and do an hour of something, like helping them pitch their CV, that would be something we could co-design for the purpose of.
There were definitely some issues on, well, it wasn't even that they were CVs, they were resumes, and they were all very cliched, very repetitive, very uninspiring in some ways, and yet talking to the people that were in the room, they were incredible. And I don't feel like those, I feel a little bit like those resumes were a bit kind of off the shelf. And these people are not off the shelf, they are high caliber people, and I think that they should initially have CVs and then create a resume. So yeah, that's just an aside. I just feel like they're working so hard, they're mature, they want to get work, they're looking for new areas. And yeah, that was just my observation.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Chandy?
Yeah, I partly wanted to respond to Barbara's comment about micro business. And so I think basically I'm in a similar situation, apart from I've run teams and I have quite a few people that I work with, but the reality is still quite small. I think you could use it as a catalyst, right? So like baptism of fire, sink or swim. But if you'd like some help on how to plan it and just give different people different tasks, you may realize at the end of this process, you will find it easier to create roles for other people also. And then this kind of can get us entrepreneurs out of our comfort zones and then realize actually there's the 10,000 things I wanted to do in my head, but now you can do two, you can do two, and that can actually generate enough revenue to make those roles sustainable as well. So, you know, I'm hoping to have situations where my two interns might have long-term opportunities as well. That's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, it was just Barbara's comment reminded me there was this funny thing. I don't know if anyone else found this, because there was this, you had to read this essay about the person, but you're only stood 2 foot away from it. They're staring at you for the whole duration. I don't know if anyone else found this. So you're reading all this, but they've got nowhere to look. No, they know what it says. They don't need to read it with you. So they're just sort of there staring at you while you're reading that. It was quite an unusual thing to then, when you finish, sort of turn around and go, hi. So yeah, it was, maybe they could just have like 3 bullet points, what they are, then you know whether you're wasting your time or not, or you know whether
But
it's
again,
worth
that could just feed into that thing that we were saying right at the beginning about that pre-introduction phase between us as businesses and them as graduates. I think it is valuable to, even if it doesn't commit to a lasting relationship, just having a basic sense of, no, that's not right for me. No, that's not right for me. There were people I saw immediately, I was like, no, you're lovely, but you're not for me. And I think, you know, even having a resume up front as part of that pre-introduction, pre-selection process, where we're having a kind of a pre-date filter, so that when we actually get to the event, we're a little bit more targeted. I think the CV, you're absolutely right, John. You're like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to ignore you, human, while I read your piece of paper. Yeah, it was weird, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Excellent. Some wonderful feedback and ideas coming through, which is exactly what we need to hear. Okay, so if you think of, oh, Chandeep, yes. One more comment?
Yeah, it's I hear what you're saying. I feel though that with CVs and videos and pitching, there still can be unconscious biases, and people can sometimes quickly make up their decision about someone. And actually, what I really liked was the ability to talk to someone and then maybe during that conversation quickly scan their CV as a kind of conversation topic. But I feel like if we weren't there in person as the first way of getting to know this person for the first time, that would have potentially eliminated some of the biases and stuff. And but what was really challenging, I felt, was I think I was kind of looking short term, long term, looking at like the actual specific career expertise, but also the people I got on with, and that was quite complex. Yeah.
Okay. It's good to know. It was like a little bit of an art exhibition, isn't it? And the artist is right there, and it's a little bit awkward. I understand. I appreciate that. Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. So what I'm going to do keep, if you do have comments going forward, I mean, please do send them our way. This will help me in the design for the next round if we do proceed with what to take forward. So what's next? What's next is you've got the students. It's down to you guys to determine how you want the logistics. Let's get through the logistics. How you want to negotiate that work time. So if you've got an office and you want them to come in, if you've got access to certain data sets and you want to share that, if you've got a immediate task that you want to have a conversation about, a body of work that needs to be done, and you want to subscribe that, give that over to them, you can do that. The agenda really is down to what do you need right now and where do you think you can see that help. So I had a really interesting conversation with a business at the event who said, I'm not looking for a short-term fix answer my phone kind of thing. I'm looking for someone to help me think about what my next step or my next plan would be. The skills that you have with the people they are gifted at finding out information. So if you want to understand what competitors in the sector look like, what is your South London remit, what do similar strategies look like, yeah, work, the good comment there, Chandy, work on the business, not in the business. They are your go-to. If you want them to help you put together drawing from your annual reports, looking at the nitty-gritty of the data, they are very good at that kind of element. And then having that kind of organic conversation about, this is where I'm interested to go. What do you know or feel about XYZ? Of course, they won't be able to like genie it on demand. You need to give them a little time to resonate with the aims and the ambitions of the business. Now, logistically, down to you guys, it just needs to be done by September 20th, and you need to sign off to let me know so I can pay them. If they didn't show up and they left you hanging, you let me know, I don't pay them, right? This is how it works. So you must be copied onto that email for their funding to be approved at the end of the session. And I will be back in touch with you to find out how it went, and we'll do something like this again. And just to gauge your interest, if we're doing it again, would you like to be an ambassadorial business to say that you've done this experience, and we can work on putting a pitch together for the next round? The intention, of course, is to grow this out in and have a South London focus, because we really want to invest in putting talent back into South London. This is the whole driving force behind these kinds of this initiative. Now, what is the strategic outcome from this? Two things. One, in South London, the funder, Big South London, we want to understand what are some of your business's key challenges. So we want to get an overview, or as we call it, a synthesis of where you are facing your major obstacles. I'm going to send the students in with a little workbook activity to ask questions, to take notes, to do a little bit of a reflective piece, to feed that back to me so I can inform the funder when we do the landscape of X number of businesses that have participated in this program. What are some of the critical challenges? Examples of challenges go all the way from footfall, no access on the high street, to technology, to not being able to get a culture of community going. It can be very abstract, or it can be very specific. I'm going to send the students in with this intention to engage with you to understand those challenges, right? That's one strategy. The second strategy out of this is for businesses yourselves to tell me if this was an experience with a PGR that you are thinking of maybe investing in. And what do I mean by that? There is a particular research funding call that gets like 90% of the times when put together constructively with a business will be funded. And we call this a knowledge transfer partnership, a KTP. A KTP will go where the business puts in some income. It can range between, depending on the size of the KTP, we have mini KTPs, larger KTPs. It's part of your investment portfolio. You put in 15K of your business planning, your income into a KTP. But what happens at the end of it is you get a employee who is structured and support from the institution, the university, over a number of years to build your business so that you are creating a job in your company for this graduate, and you're working with them with the resources of the institution to build. So it's very hard right now for companies that are not cash heavy to just go, I want to do a KTP and put this investment in. We are treating this as a stepping stone to see if this kind of engagement, albeit I know it's only 6 days, but if this kind of thinking is something you want to invest in a more long-term way, then you come back to me at Roehampton and pick up this conversation about a KTP, and we walk through the design. The KTPs are designed with Innovate UK with the funder in mind. So everything, that is why it's a 90% success rate of once we go through the processes of putting in all the paperwork, it will be funded. They can go up to like the entire package, 100 and something, 100, 200K of an investment collectively. So it's an opportunity for you to invest in something that's R&D, and will give you some benefit. All right, so I'm going to stop there and take a couple questions. Kevin. You're on mute.
Yep. KTPs. I every time I talk to a university, KTPs come up. But and I can't speak for the rest. But yeah, because we're only going, not even going, well, going 3 years. It's on Monday, and we have no revenue as such because we're a startup and we've been grant funded. I know there's big issues with KTPs and us because the one thing Innovate looks at is are you going to be there, right, in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, depending on the size of the KTP. I haven't heard of mini KTPs. So what's the difference between them and because typically KTPs are 2 to 3 years if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So how long are mini KTPs?
So mini KTPs, and this is from my eclectic experience as a researcher, right? Mini KTPs are taking different forms from different funders, in the sense that the British Academy is funding a hybrid with partnerships between institutions. And I've just received one of these innovation fellowships from the BA, where I'm working with a homeless charity to help them strategically use technology to understand how the homeless spend their time outside of the charity. How can we better attend to their needs? And I'm bringing in a graduate with specialized skill to help develop their strategy. So this is like a mini, in a way, it's not officially badged as a mini KTP, but people are understanding. Innovate is certainly taking the message away that for SMEs, it's harder to get that kind of investment. And we've been telling them this nonstop. If they want it, they need to pump prime smaller, ambitious goals. But you need to have that conversation with us at the university
Okay.
so we can identify what an alternative partnership kind of funding that can be a stepping stone for you as a business. So whether that be something like the Innovation Fellowship, or whether that be something else that's being offered either through schemes like Big South London, anything that has a business partnership element to it that can be developed to help build more sustainability, that can eventually maybe go to KTP or not, is what we can still have conversations about.
Oh, that's fantastic, because I have to admit, we've used in the 3 years of Reading Exist, we've used 40 interns. I mean, I've got 9 at the moment, and I'm interviewing one immediately after this, so it might be 10. And they're fantastic, and it's taken us a while to figure out how to use them best. So this program is actually really opportune in terms of getting researchers for 6 days, and I'm actually really excited, because I think I obviously need to talk to the two people that we've got, but I think this is a really interesting bridge, because and what I was concerned about there was that the next step is a huge step for a startup like us. Whereas if you say there's intermediate steps these are new, I haven't heard of these before. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there are more intermediate steps. Again, you need to get really creative, and I think you need to have conversations with people who can help you realize that creativity in terms of what you want to achieve, how it can be partnered with, and which scheme to go for. But other funders are getting much more in tune with the collaborative nature of the research, and how that is done. So definitely get in touch with me, and we can schedule something through the research office. Apologies, our research officer couldn't be here today. I actually told him I'd handle the fort, so all blame comes to me. But yeah, do get in touch with us. Sarah.
I just wanted to ask about IP and copyright. So if you work at the university, what if it's a commercialized product? What is the percentage of IP? Are we signing away any rights? Thanks.
So for this particular venture of what we're doing with 6 days, the IP will remain yours. We're not in a position to broker that with these internships. So what's created and done is entirely yours. For future collaborations, if you should so engage, that would be something we'd take through contracts depending on what you want to build.
So that percentage would be dependent on the negotiation, you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Or is it specific product or services?
Well,
it would be dependent on what you were asking for in terms of the design, and then we would work it out from contracts what we can cover with the IP. Because right now, I think we're setting up right now to think a lot more about commercialization. Some of the unis have it a bit more established than others in terms of looking at how they would commercialize products, but and they have their contracts in place. But right now with Roehampton, it's a case by case basis. So. And Kevin's ringing again.
Because at UCL, I think, if I'm not wrong, students need to sign off 40% of the copyright if anything were to be commercialized. So I'm just concerned, like, is there a range that you particularly look at, or it's just up to the case by
Actually,
case.
Sarah, there's a set of IP templates Innovate has on its website, right, for this, and they range from everything from you hold everything to the university holds everything, and then there's various sub-licensing arrangements. I think my understanding is this is a needs-based negotiation with the university. And you can always walk away if it doesn't suit. That fair, Melissa?
Yep, that is fair. That is fair. And I think, again, it comes down to the contracts. And each university will vary. So UCL will no doubt have something in place because they have a much larger remit to issue research. But with other institutions, this will vary on a case-by-case basis. So, yeah, thank you, Kevin. Any other questions so far? No? Okay. So, in terms of the next immediate steps, so you got the strategic ideas of what we are thinking of looking for in the long term, and what we will be seeking some feedback from. Otherwise, I think I will leave it down to you guys to be able to be in touch with your intern and set up your next steps of how you envision this going on. We did circulate, with the help of Equality Partnership, a one-pager, which I can ask Giri to send around to you again, about, so now you have an intern, what next? That just plugs some ideas of things that you can think of when taking on the intern. But just to share some ideas, do you guys have in mind what you might think of doing with your intern? And for those businesses that are taking two, if you were able at all to give the intern separate objectives to work on, that would be appreciated, so they're not doubling up on the same goals. If possible, that would be best. But do you have any ideas so far? Yeah, Barbara, you're on mute.
Hi, sorry. I think one of the issues, it's not an issue. I don't really know who my interns are. I've just got two names. I don't know who they were from the people I gave pieces of paper to. So I know I had very random, because again, I wasn't really sure what the purpose of being there was. So I'm really unclear what I even told the interns I needed and wanted. Do you know what I mean? It started off at market research, then it went into content development and a course online, and then it just kind of morphed as it went around the room. So I think all I know at the moment is that I'm setting up a business, and there's things that I want to prove. I believe that I'm looking at something from a different perspective. And so I'm looking for someone who's going to research and dig into government statistics and find the stuff they don't want us to know about how badly they perform, to help people find work. I'm also very interested in the fact that there is no money spent on staff training. So I'm interested in them digging into how much money is spent on the front line of helping people find work, defining the sector. Basically, it's a sector that everyone's out there doing their own bit, but it's actually a cohesive sector, but it's made up of all these disparate, separate pieces. And what I'm trying to do, and I hope as a graduate can help me, is bring all of that together and look at it as an overall group, saying we are the sector that helps people find work, whether we're a university, a prison, a school, a training provider, the DWP, a housing association. All these people are invested in helping people find work, but there's no national standard. So they're all doing their own thing in their own way without a cohesion. And so what happens is there's more and more people unemployed because there's no cohesive sector about just helping people find work. That's what I want a student to help me do, is actually confirm that it is actually a sector on its own, and that it's not been paid attention to, and that were it paid attention to, we might get more people into work.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So I do think, just coming back to not remembering the student, you do have to have that kind of informal chat and start over again with who you've got in the room, right? So yeah, definitely, right? go for it. But now you kind of know. That's really good idea. I've got Kevin and then Saffron.
Yeah, for one of them, I had a very clear objective when we talked. It became very clear what we're going to do. So hopefully that's going to be writing or doing the research in terms of writing a research proposal. So obviously that if we get that, follow that through, then obviously I'd expect that person to continue on in that. And the other one, well, it's Geary. And I was thinking about it, I was looking at it, and I think I know, we have to have a conversation, but I think Geary has struck me as one of these multi-talented, and he's got this artistic aspect that I think is really interesting. And we're in mental health, and one of the big issues in mental health is how you communicate with, our target audience, because, for a bundle of reasons, there's a lot of skepticism about what we're doing. So I think but that'll be a conversation. And I think, it has to be some sort of negotiation. He has to get something out of it as much as us, and we have only 6 days. So it's got to be feasible in that. Whereas I think on the other side, and it might be why he picked us, it was pretty clear that it was a really good alignment in terms of what we think we can get done in 6 days. So I'm really happy. I mean, it's fantastic.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much. We've got Saffron.
Thanks, Melissa. So I come to these meetings always using it as a networking opportunity. And Kevin, it sounds very interesting what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing, so maybe we can connect afterwards. But I run a charity in Croydon called Startup Croydon. So we help early stage businesses anyway. But we're on a new journey ourselves, opening a new creative digital lab. And I need so much help with so many aspects. So I'm delighted to have the intern coming to work with us. And basically, it will be helping us with research on and reaching out to find the right people who are going to be using the lab, impact reports, as we are a charity as well. So lots of different things to do with data mining and research and bringing information forward. So yeah, very happy.
Excellent. And if you guys want, we can circulate an email with all of your names and businesses as well, so you can be in touch with each other, if that's okay. So that way I think it's good networking for you too, right? You're our pilot businesses. All right, you took a chance on us. I've got John and then Barbara and then Helen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're launching an online educational course, and everything we do in our music production company is as accessible as it possibly can be. And one of your researchers, the one we got paired with, has done a stunning work in that field. So she's going to be hopefully diving in and supporting us as we launch this to the world.
Fantastic. Barbara?
So I really am a complete newbie at running a business and everything. This has been a really big goal thing for me. So could one of the things be, I hadn't even really considered this, that maybe the graduate can actually advise me about my business in general and how I'm growing it and what the strategy would be? Because to be honest, I think I know what I'm doing, but I don't actually think I know what I'm doing at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, having brainstorming sessions with them would be a good idea. And as David was saying earlier, many of them have years of experience outside of working. So hopefully you'll be able to capitalize on some of that if you get some.
I have seconds of it, literally seconds of it. And the other thing is as well, from that initial, so obviously you want us, obviously we're going to have to contact them and reinstigate the relationship and find out a little bit about them. How long do you expect that to take, and does that count as the hours, or is there a point where you trigger, right, we're beginning to work together?
I think do your meet and greet as a...
Oh, sorry, you broke up.
Meet and greet as a freebie for both of you, so you know who's coming to you. Just consolidate that and then just count the hours as days worked. I think that is a reasonable way to take it. So six days.
what sort of
actual work.
what hours would you consider? I know this is silly, but it is a funded thing, so the hours and all the rest are very important. I don't want to be exploiting some poor graduate in the world. So what is acceptable?
Okay.
What is the number of hours per day? And do we have to be working together? Can they timetable it? Can they invoice it? Can they? What's that process about? I'm a stats QA kind of girl.
No, that's fine. That's a good question. So I think if you're happy to maybe ask them to create a bit of a timesheet for you of the 6 days, and it's 9 to 5 hours, like a regular workplace. So or 8 to 4, however you want to work it. If some of that is going to be task-based or online, that would be fine. And if you would just like them to show you how they have spent the time, I think showing you how they manage their time is also maybe really good. So you get a flavor for what can an intern potentially achieve in 6 days. So you may start off with 3 kind of goals that you may want done, and get them to log that for you, how long they spent doing XYZ. So just you can work out the hours from there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a specialist also in modern slavery, so I'll know, guys. I'll know. All right.
This is just going to be old-fashioned slavery, not modern.
The modern one is very concealed. So I think, Helen, did you have a comment? You had your hand up. You're on mute. Yeah.
In that short time, I answered my own question, Melissa.
Efficient.
Thank you.
So efficient.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. It was simple.
All right, so we will circulate and let the businesses know each of the other businesses. So Giri can take that as an action point. We'll reach out by September 20th just to touch base for some feedback from you. If you want to have like a quick catch up like this again, just to do a debrief, that's more than welcome. Conversations about KTPs, we can pick them up then, and I'll bring Jose on board, who's our head of research from Roehampton, and we can answer all of your nitty gritty questions about mini KTPs, going towards KTPs, collaborative work that you can take forward. And also we'll invite you to maybe do some of that challenge work that we're doing with Big South London. Again, collaboratively, you're all based in South London. So what can we do together, for each other, with each other, to make the area much more sustainable and for you all to succeed? Right. So any further comments, questions? I'll hang back on the call, but we can stop the recording now. And yeah, Sarah, go for it.
We've received emails so far. Based on what you've been sharing, is there like a PDF summary, written summary?
I have not put something together, but I'll ask Giri, can you take that as an action point to just create a summary and circulate it to the businesses again? Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll host this webinar onto the website. We are on LinkedIn with that post, and I don't know, I'm just going to pop this in the chat. If you saw the video that came out from the event, some of you are starring in there. We've got a couple nice comments coming in from individuals, from the students. It was very well recorded, nice caption of the evening. So this page, the website page, just basically takes on board everything that's happening, but we're all on LinkedIn anyway. So John, no, we focused in on you eating the beef there. Don't worry, we went straight in for a Zoom shot. Excellent. Okay, guys. Well, I know you have busy days, so if you want to pop off or you want to hang back for a chat, I'm here. But anything that goes wrong or you're concerned about during the course of the internship, do send me an email, and do let me know. I'm here to support you, even though I seem a bit silent. I am there, so you do have our full support. Anything you require. All right. Excellent. All right, guys. Take care. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Melissa, can I talk to you separately because I missed the first half of the...
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, just hang back. Giri, can you stop